Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade, Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. I normally don't do an intro to the Two Guys, One Hobby video, but following the recording, I realized that there was some issues with my video feed. So rather than it be a distraction to the great conversation we had with Bowman53, I decided to place a logo over my video portion. So I hope you enjoy the latest episode of Two Guys, One Hobby. Hey, sports card fans, welcome back to episode 24 of Two Guys, One Hobby. How you doing, Don?
I'm doing well, John. How are you tonight?
Good, good. I hear congratulations are in order. Is it your youngest child, your son, graduate from high school?
He did. Graduation was last Thursday, so I got three through the same school, the same high school that my wife went to, actually.
Oh, nice.
Quite outnumbered. I live with four graduates from that school, but he graduated and did the best academically out of the three kids, so very proud of him.
Nice. Is he going on to college or a trade
school?
He's
going to High Point University in North Carolina. It's just sort of in the middle of the state, so he wanted to head down south, and that's where he's going.
Nice, excellent. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we get our guest on, I do want to do a little bit of a housekeeping or promotion. The two of us, Two Guys, One Hobby, are going to be part of the upcoming Hobby Palooza. That's going to be on Saturday, June 22nd and Sunday, June 23rd, being hosted by the For Collectors channel. We have we're sharing the noon slot on Saturday, the 22nd with, I don't know, some pretend artists, Scott Reindeer Studios and Eric Four Leaf Cards. I guess they doodle a little bit. And we're providing color commentary.
Well, Eric's a very good artist.
Okay. Well, I guess I've seen some of Eric's stuff. He's decent. But I guess we're going to do, I don't know, just have some general discussion. I know who they are both drawing, so we may incorporate that player in our discussion. And I guess generally just make fun of Scott and Eric as they doodle in the background. And
like a plan. We could show some manual cards.
Yeah.
A couple great ones. So
yeah.
Show those off as well.
Yeah, it should be a good time. So again, make sure you check us out and all the other channels that are going to be part of Hobby Palooza. Again, Saturday, June 22nd, starting at, I think, 10 a.m. So we'll be the third slot on the Saturday. And I think it goes to maybe like 9 or 10 at night each day. So chock full of great YouTube content. So definitely check it out. I will have a link to the For Collectors channel in the description of this video. Make sure you go to that channel, subscribe, so you can get all the upcoming notices of Hobby Palooza. So with that, Dawn, I'll have you introduce.
So it's my turn to pick the guest, and man, it's probably been close to a month since we've done a show. I think.
Last month. Yeah.
Because we had to work around this guest's schedule. He also required blue M&Ms in the dressing room. He wanted chopped ice. And not
I like the orange ones. So
and its LaCroix had to be orange flavor, not the purple. So I believe we met all his demands, and we got him to come on.
Good.
And we're going to welcome our good friend Bowman53.
Welcome, Alex.
Hey, thanks, guys.
We're partying hard tonight with LaCroix.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Dawn, was it through Alex's weekly live stream, I believe Sundays, you have it on, Alex?
Yeah.
Is that where you got the start of your Donnie live stream nickname? Because I know you are always on Alex's live stream.
No, there was a period for a while there that I was on a bunch of shows, and I would jump on people's live streams, and so our buddy Jake gave me that nickname, but I believe I've been well overtaken.
Yeah.
Guys.
Well, I think it started with that.
It's not quite fitting anymore, but I've got quite a few. You know, I've got the kneeling cards, and I've got the Donnie live streams. So well earned.
Yep. And Don, I failed to mention you are also going to be on another episode of Hobby Palooza with George Diamond Sports
With
Cars, I
George
think.
Diamond, yeah. So we've done it every year with him and Chuck, Northside guy. Chuck couldn't do it last year, but he's done it previously with us. So we're going to show our favorite cards from all the eras. So
when's that going to be on?
I believe that's at 2 the same day.
On Saturday? Okay.
Correct.
Now, Alex, I think you're also on one of the episodes. So why don't you plug your episode for everyone?
Yeah, sure. So I'll be hosting a live stream. I think it's Sunday night, 8 o'clock, which is my usual slot. So I asked John, and he was able to give me that slot. And it's got, let's see, Rocket Rick, Rick Acosta. Oh shoot, I'm going to blank here. Mike, sports history collector, and one other guy whose name is just like leaving my head. Oh, of course, the Drew. How could I forget Drew? Drew will be on there too. And we're all just talking vintage cards. It's going to be fairly open-ended, but should be a good time.
No, that'll be great. It's a great group.
Yeah. I think there's something for everyone. Obviously, I think it's mainly the 2 days, maybe slightly heavy toward vintage, but I know there's others that deal with the non-baseball cards, more modern cards. I think there's some not necessarily breakers, but there's ones that do more hobby news content. So it's a wide range of YouTubers. So it should be a great event. So Alex, we didn't have you on here just to talk about Hobby Palooza. We're going to be talking about, I think, and you brought this topic up, really good discussion, I think, that not many YouTubers have or have done on their channel, at least into maybe this full extent here in the hour that we have. But the good and bad of the sports card hobby and the different things that we have to deal with, both the good and the bad, in collecting cards, being on YouTube, various things like that. So I think it's a great topic that you wanted to discuss there. So maybe you can just start it off with some of your initial thoughts, and we'll maybe dive deep into some particular areas.
Yeah, sure. So, I mentioned to you guys just before we started that this is something that I think a lot about, but I don't know that I've ever really had a chance to talk with anybody about it. And I do think that once in a while we'll talk about this off, once in a while in a video we might mention it, but it's something that I think about a lot. And, I've been collecting now for a number of years, and at least in terms of getting back into it from when I was a kid. And when I think back to when I first started getting back into collecting, I didn't really know that much about vintage. I certainly didn't know about grading, and I didn't know, kind of naively didn't realize how expensive this hobby can get. And when I got into it, it was purely for the excitement of, just the cards and the history, and maybe finally getting to own cards that I remember looking at as a kid, but never thought I would get to own. And along the way, as I started to get into the hobby, I started noticing that because of the hobby, certain habits were getting developed that maybe I didn't already have. When I got back into it, I was single, so we can get a little personal here. Like, I was single. And so I had a disposable income, and I didn't have anybody necessarily looking over my shoulder in terms of like what I was buying and that sort of thing. But I was also like, not being super careful. I guess as a result of being single, I was like, I wasn't being super careful with my money. I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't investing and like saving money and that sort of thing. And something interesting happened when I started collecting baseball cards. This was not what I was thinking about when I started it, but like, it's like, oh, I want to get, whatever, a Mickey Mantle card or a Hank Aaron card or something. And I started realizing what the prices were and like, okay, what condition can I afford? And gee, that card's kind of expensive. I can't get it right now. Well, maybe I can save up for it. And over time, plan to get it in the future. It's like, okay, all of a sudden, like, I'm doing things that I should have already been doing, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I'm at an age where I really should have figured all that out. But like, collecting cards actually really started to help me develop better habits in terms of like being patient, setting a goal, saying, okay, I want to get that card. I can't get it right now. I can't, I'm not going to use a credit card. I'm not going to like go into debt on this thing. But if I really want it, I got to start putting money aside, and little by little, if I really want it, withhold those, impulse buys for right now. And maybe in a month or two, I can get it. And that's just one small example of like what I consider to be a pretty good habit, because I have turned the corner on that sort of thing. I'm not single anymore. I've got a house now, like, things, and I'm not attributing all that to baseball cards, but it did actually help develop a good habit for me.
Yeah, one thing that I can say about your collection, Alex, and the way you go about it, that I don't think I've ever seen you at least come out and show it on your videos where you did an impulse buy. I know you've got your list of cards and it grows, especially from your show, people showing cards and things. But I always seem to see a target or a theme that you're going for. You just don't go on eBay and say, "Oh, that looks like a great card." And maybe you do, and you just don't show that. But it always seems like there's some thought put into it, and there's a reason why you go after a certain card, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is true. And I mean, I will like buy a card on impulse, but it's a card that I've been eyeing. It's a card that I've been like searching and watching and waiting for. And maybe I've just been waiting for the right condition or the right price, or maybe I've just been waiting to see if I actually really do want to get it.
Yeah, but there's still thought behind it. That's kind of what I meant. It wasn't like, it's not like, this 73K line pops up and you're like, oh, I'm going to get that
squirrel card.
About it.
Like, oh, hey.
In the past, I've been known to just do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that either. But I don't know. I guess there's a lot of different ways to approach what we do.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I had you opened up a little personally for me as well. There's time in the around 2004, 2005. I was married at the time, but it wasn't going so well. The first marriage, second one's doing great. Just celebrated 6 years, but the first marriage wasn't going so well, and sort of, I guess it was almost like retail therapy for me, to go on eBay and at the time it was just Wade Boggs cards. And 2004, 2005 was a time where, based on my checklist, like a couple thousand cards were released. I mean, it was just an explosion of Boggs cards with all the different sets and parallels and you name it. And I'd see one that I didn't have. I'm like, I want it. I want it.
Right.
Well, life lesson learned. I did put cards on a credit card. I did overextend myself. And it took me a while to dig out from that. Right. Life lesson, lessons learned through the hobby. And now, if I don't have the money that I set aside in my budget, I don't buy cards. If I don't have the money, I wait until I have enough or save up. And I do not put a single card on a credit card ever. And I will never do that. So while you sort of maybe caught it, say, hey, I'm not going to do this, and you caught it early, I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Of that's not the way to long-term enjoy the hobby. You get that instant gratification of, hey, I got this card. I got this. I'll worry about the bill next month. Yeah, that's not a good way to ultimately enjoy the hobby. So
right. Well, I mean, John, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure other people do too. And there's a lot of different a lot of different situations that people find themselves in, and it's really tempting sometimes. I mean, even now, like there will be times where I'm thinking like, well, maybe I could, and you kind of like daydream a little bit, but it's definitely a trap that we all have to try to avoid.
And it's easy to get in that trap by watching all these YouTube videos, because there's people that just have the money that can do that and buy big cars all the time. And you got to be careful and say, okay, well, that's great and that's them, but that's not me. And you just got to make sure you just don't go down that path of trying to keep up, or wow, I haven't made a video because I haven't bought any cards. I got to go out and get some cards.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've bought very few things in the last year. Now, granted, my videos aren't coming out as often as they did, but it's really not, that's really not the reason. But you can find ways to make videos with the things you have without continuously adding cards to make videos.
Yeah. Which goes to the sort of the next topic that we had sort of written down is budgets. Is find where you have your level of disposable income, stay within that budget, and you can still, whether it's modern cards, vintage cards, packs, you name it, you can still build over time a really nice collection that you can enjoy by sticking within your budget. And Don, as you mentioned, some collectors out there just have larger budgets to spend on cards than say I do, or you do, Alex, or you do, Don. Again, at this point in time, you said, you're not buying any right now because you're in a situation where you may not have some disposable income. Now that may not last forever. There'll be a time where hopefully, hey, I can now set aside, $100 a month, and you can enjoy the hobby with that $100 a month. Some people have $500 a month that they can put toward the hobby, and that's great. And we shouldn't be, envious or mad at some, like, oh my God, well, it must be nice for them to be able to do this. I have, I have $100 budget a month and they have 10 times that. Well, okay. We all have different lives, different situations, different financial obligations that take precedence over a hobby. And we just have to enjoy being in our lane.
Yeah, totally. I think it's crazy because, I mean, it's no surprise that like social media really plays a factor in it, because I don't really think that any of us would really think too much about it if we weren't looking at it on YouTube or Instagram or somewhere else. Because it's like if I get a common card that I really like, I'm excited about it, I make a video about it, I might not get a whole lot of attention, let's say, for it, or views. Whereas if somebody gets a Mickey Mantle card or a Hank Aaron card, gosh, they're going to get thousands of views from people who don't even follow their channel just because they're looking up Mickey Mantle. And it might go in your head a little bit, but like you said, ultimately, it shouldn't be about your channel. It should be about you and your collection. The channel should be like an offshoot of what you're doing in your everyday life anyway. And it's like, if I'm happy with my collection, and at the end of the day, even when I'm by myself looking at my collection, if I'm proud of it and if I like it, that's what really matters in the end. All those views, like that's not gonna stick with you in the long run.
Because it's and for me, it's a case where I think another topic to bring up is I think for some collectors, maybe not all, but I find myself being in this situation where we get sort of caught up in like the here and now in terms of what are we buying, adding to our collection, and we don't often take the time to go back and look through our collection and see how it's built over the last year, 2, 3, 5 years, however long you've been collecting, and actually sit back and look and go, wow, by being patient and taking your time, sticking within the budget, I've built up a really nice collection. And you look through the card, wow, yeah, that's right, I have this card. It's all like short attention span syndrome. That it's like, well, show me what you bought lately, and that's all that matters. And it's just a perpetual motion that we go through. And sometimes it makes sense to stop and smell the roses, to take a look at what you have, Dawn, and just like to turn around and I'm sure you do it, and just look and go, wow, I have this, man, I have that. Wow, boy, am I lucky and blessed to be able to own this 49 Bowman Satchel page.
Sure. And I think like Don said before, sorry, Don, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go.
I was just going to say, like, as Don was saying before, like life will bring that your way. Like, more than a year ago when I was getting ready to get this house, I was not, even daring to look at a baseball card, just to sort of keep myself focused on like getting ready to get this huge purchase in my life. And, for, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, maybe more, my life was elsewhere. Like, but that didn't mean I like left the hobby. I was still on YouTube and watching other people's videos and talking with people, but I wasn't collecting anything. And I think that really helped a lot because, when I first started my channel and first started collecting, gosh, what was it, like 6 years ago now? And I was building the 53 set. I was getting 2 or 3 cards every week, sometimes more than that. And they were just coming in. And that was exciting. It was fun. I was looking forward to the mail, and like it was sort of a nice little habit. And then as that set dwindled down, the cards were coming in less and less. And after I finished that set, my focus changed. And when I was in that sort of holding period and making that transition into, buying the house, I wasn't getting anything. It really helped me appreciate, like you said, John, everything I already had. But it also kind of made me realize, like, I don't have to have a card coming in. It's okay. Like my channel will be okay. My my friends will still be there, my YouTube pals and so on. And I can make video, like Don just said, I can make videos about other stuff, and I can just really kind of appreciate it. And now, like, if I wanted to, I might be able to buy another card or two here or there, these days, but I honestly don't. Like right now, like I'd say on average, I've got like maybe 1 card a month coming in, and it's just a choice. It's like, if I'm going to get a card, I want it to be a card that I really care about. And I also just like the idea that I don't have to, I don't have to acquire stuff just to acquire stuff, I guess.
I know for me, as soon as I got the card and got the high of getting that card, I was putting it down and on to the next one.
Yeah.
I was continuously doing that instead of appreciating what I just got. It's like, okay, I conquered that. Now let's move on. What can I get? And I don't feel that way anymore. And I'm glad, because it's just a bad habit. Like, you're not appreciating what you have. And when I went to Strongsville, Scott corrected me because I said I didn't buy any cards. I bought him a $10 card. I bought 1 card, but I had a blast and I didn't feel any jealousy. And, it was just fun looking around. And, if I find something, like I did buy something recently, I haven't received it yet, but it was to me, a rare musial piece that the guy's selling off his musial collection, and it was a good deal. And it was like, okay, but I'll appreciate that. And I probably won't buy anything for who knows when. But it's really taught me just what you guys were saying, to sit back and look at my displays and what I have. And like a lot of the cards I sold, for the most part, it was like, do I love that card? I like it. I mean, with the exception of a few, but it was kind of like, I'd almost rather have a smaller collection of stuff. I love everything rather than just like, at one point when I started, I was going to get a Hall of Fame card of every player in a PSA slab and an SGC slab. Now I'm like, why? Like, that's so dumb. And so I've got like this card here, this doesn't really mean that much to me. But at the time, I needed to get it in SGC and a PSA. So, like a lot of people too, our focus has changed,
right?
And we, I think YouTube has had a lot of influence, at least on me, on that too, because I did used to look at what this little number is here, and I don't anymore.
Well, on the positive side, I don't want this to sound like, hey, here's things that you have to be careful of and all stuff. There are, I think, benefits to watching other YouTubers' videos that show off some really cool cards, because I know for me, especially on the vintage side, it wasn't really until I got on YouTube a little over 4 years ago that I decided to build a vintage collection. I had a few, maybe a dozen or so vintage cards that I just picked up haphazardly over the years. but not really any type of focus. And it by seeing other videos and seeing the cards that they picked up, I had to catch myself of being like jealous of, oh, that's nice or whatever. But there were occasions where someone would show off a card, and there's so many vintage cards out there, right? That you lose sight of them, or those cards exist, but they're not at the front of your mind. And you'll see a card that someone shows off and go, wow, that is a beautiful card. And it may be one that is within your budget, but based on the grade, and it's just one that you can go after. I know one of them was the 1952 Topps Bob Feller. I forget which channel it was. It was probably a couple of years ago, but someone showed that card off that they recently picked up, and I go, that is one beautiful looking card. Now, I didn't go out the next day and find one and buy it, but it became, front, a little bit more front of like, hey, maybe I'll occasionally look for one. And it was maybe a few months later that I found one on eBay at an auction, and I was the highest bidder, and it's a PSA 2, but I love it. And so I think other channels can be an inspiration for your collection. Either it take you in a different direction or say, wow, I didn't realize this, and maybe I can start a mini collection of all-star players from 1967 because I remember this year, whatever the case may be. Someone's topic of a video may spark some interest in a new collecting area for you.
No, I think that's definitely true. And I mean, I can remember over the past several years that, I mean, first of all, most, if not all, my vintage knowledge just came from watching YouTube. I mean, I didn't really know much of it at all, and I wasn't trying to learn about it. It just happened when you get in this community, you start watching videos, like you're just going to see so many cards, and you're going to learn so much about the differences between them and what to look for and that sort of thing. And there's something really cool that sometimes happens. It, like when you see somebody show a card, even though you may have seen that card before, there might be just something about how that person shows the card, or something that they mention, or something that they noticed that you never picked up on. Or maybe it's something that you could have figured out, but you never did. Like something interesting happened in that player's career in the year that card was released, or something like that. It just makes you look at that card differently, and suddenly you see something that you hadn't seen before. That I think is really kind of cool when that happens. So yeah, I mean, Don mentioned it on the live stream on like Sunday nights. I've got a little pad over here where, like, if somebody brings something up that's really like that sticks with me, I mean, even last Sunday, I had Reese on my channel. He was showing cards. I was like, Reese, what was that Joe Wood card? I was like, just writing stuff down because, and you never know when something's going to catch your eye.
And there's a lot of guys on your show too. There'll be something in a card that you didn't notice or whatever. It's kind of, piggybacking what you just said, Alex, but you just never thought of it. And there's so much knowledge in this community, even like when I bought my musical autograph baseball at 2 nationals ago, I had Jake come with me.
Right.
Because I don't know anything about autographs. And I had him look at it, and he said, this is what you should pay for it. And, it's nice to rely on other people to say, that's a good buy, or that's a nice card, or what's your opinion? I think you can do better. And it's nice to have that wealth of knowledge right at your hands, because there's so many experts out there. Yeah,
you have certain, like, whether it's like a team or a player or a particular set or a year, that like a YouTuber or a collector comes to mind. It's like, okay, I got to talk to Brian Roth if I'm looking at a Hank Greenberg or whatever. Just like immediately,
you'll have Bowman, I call Chuck Norris that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
and he'll say, here, you're collecting Tito 6, you have to have it in an 8.
Yeah, yes, yeah, with a cycle back. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Another, I think, good thing about the hobby, and I think in some cases it may need to be kept in check, as we sort of mentioned earlier, but it's the thrill of the chase, or the completion of a if you're going for a player run, or whatever, or in case of completing the 53 Bowman set for you, Alex, just knowing that you have a card on your list, maybe that you set aside money for, again, within all those parameters that we've talked about, but then trying to find that card. Okay, I'm ready to go after this 53 top satchel page. All right. I have some money set aside. I'm ready to buy the card, but you want to buy the right card. And you go to some shows, maybe, or see some eBay listings. No, that one's not quite right. No, that one's a little bit higher grade. It's too expensive for me, and I don't like this one. And then when you come across the card that just fits, that you look at it, and because I've had it happen to me with cards on my different lists. I'll look at something now, and then there's one that just catches my eye, the right grade, price point, more of the price point because of the grade, but not the grade itself, but the price point and the eye appeal. It's wow. I want to go after this card. It's an auction, maybe. I don't want to put in too high of a bid, but hopefully I'll get it. And it just, the thrill of the chase, and then when you've completed a project that you've been working on, just that satisfaction. But again, it could be you got to be careful that it doesn't become addicting.
Sure.
That you're always chasing, and then things could get out of hand. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think part of kind of what you're saying to me is that the chase is fun because it's a challenge, and I think the more challenging it is, the more satisfying it is when you get that card. And I also have noticed that those cards start to take on more meaning than just the fact that you have the card. I mean, it's really cool to have whatever it is, a Hank Aaron rookie or whatever it might be, but when there's also a story that it doesn't have to be some remarkable tale that you tell other people, but when there's like a personal goal that you were able to achieve, that card takes on more meaning. I have one here pulled aside. This is a card that I love showing off. I've had it for many years now. It's the 49 Bowman Jackie, and this was definitely the biggest card I had ever gotten when I got it, and I was still in the middle of building the Bowman set. But in addition to being glad I got it when I did, because I got this like maybe 5 years ago. The other thing I really like about this card is that when I look at it, I also think about like where I was in my life. Like I had just gotten a raise. I was doing well at my job. I had really sort of solidified that I was happy with my job and I wanted to stay in the position that I was in. And I was really committed to it in terms of my career. And I had just gotten a raise and I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I was like, I'm going to get this Jackie Robinson card. And so whenever I look at this card, I think about that time in my life and like what I did with that money, and I'm glad I did it. And so it's like, yeah, I'm really glad I have this card, but it also represents like, just a time in my life.
Yeah, almost like a reward for you. You got the job, and now you have that memory with that card with it. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. There are cards in my collection that when I look at the card, I instantly know the situation where I got it, whether it be one of the nationals, my 54 Bowman Ted Williams. I will always remember picking that, seeing that at the national, picking it up. It was a card that I had sort of targeted, but I wouldn't have been upset if I didn't pick one up, type of thing.
Yeah.
But I'll always remember that picking that up at the national, and as opposed to, just going through some cards and maybe some random, I don't want to say random, but just like an eBay purchase. Like, okay, sure. I bought it, or just a regular card show. Oh, I see this card, I like it. There are certain cards that you'll end up having in your collection that have maybe not a great story behind it, but just something that you'll always remember how you came across and acquired that card.
Yeah, definitely. There's something about the selection and like, taking your time with it and knowing you want to get it, but making sure you get the right one at the right time. And I always think like when you're at the national, although you don't have to get anything at the national to have a great time, you'll always remember some of the stuff that you get at the National, just because you're getting it alongside other folks that you're friends with, and it's just a memorable experience.
Right. Yeah. I had a question for you, Alex. And I think I've heard you comment on this before, but so after you finished the 53 Bowman set, obviously there was the thrill of finishing it.
Yeah.
But was there a part of you that was like, I was so entrenched in doing this that I missed it? And I don't know if that depressed is not the right word, but kind of a lull, or like, now what do I do? Like that was my focus and my baby, and now I'm not.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was a really weird time because, in fact, I kind of anticipated it because it took me a while to finish it because the last 10 cards or so were really tough to find in terms of the condition that I wanted. So I had like a couple months there where I knew it was ending, but it was a really slow end. And I started thinking like, well, gosh, like what's next? And I had a lot of ideas. Like part of me even thought like, well, maybe I don't know. Am I going to still collect? I didn't know what was next. It wasn't immediately obvious what I wanted to collect next. I even started collecting the 54 Bowman set, which some people know and some people might be surprised to hear. I got like 10 or 12 cards into that and was like, nah, I don't think I'm going to build this set. I like it. And there's certain cards I really like in that set, but like I kind of tried that out. I was like, well, I'll just do another set. I was like, no, that doesn't feel right. I thought it was going to be just pre-war for a while. And I do collect pre-war, but I thought it was just going to be pre-war. It took me a while. And, I think goes back to what we were talking about, like having a focus, having a goal. That's what I was trying to figure out. It's like, what's the new goal? As it turned out, I needed to kind of like make up my own goal. So my goal it's not like a player run or a team set or anything like that. It's like, I'm literally just picking out what I think are the nicest looking cards, or the cards that speak to me, that may or may not be interesting to other people, but that's okay because it's my collection.
Right.
And it's totally, I guess it just, as long as it makes sense to me, I'm happy. So once I went in that direction, I haven't looked back, and it's been cool. But sometimes in this hobby, you have to stop. You have to kind of, like, where am I? And sometimes you have to pivot and maybe even start over. That kind of happened to me a little bit there. And then I found my way.
Well, I kind of associate 50s New York baseball with you as well, not just Three Bowman. But what I think is cool about that is you don't have to do a particular set. You've got 3 teams. It doesn't necessarily have to be cards. I know you read a lot of books about that era, or if you buy pennants or autograph ball or whatever, it gives you a lot more flexibility than 53 Bowman did.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of it's another, just shows another turn in your collecting, another aspect, where one was so rigid and narrow, and this one's a little more flexibility to it.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned books, Don. That's another thing that I love about this hobby is like I was not the most voracious reader, let's say, but because I'm so into the history, I have too many books at this point. I can't read them all. And some of them I may never read, and some of them I might read like a little bit and kind of put the book aside. But I just love the history so much, and like I always did, but getting into the hobby really kind of like really solidified that for me.
Before I want to maybe bring up like setting goals and targets or lists or things like that. But before we get into that, we're a little over halfway through. Thought I'd do the trivia question.
Sure.
That I normally throw out here to see if I can trip up Dawn and see if our guest can answer. So it's regarding a Hall of Famer. So who is the only Hall of Fame pitcher to never give up a grand slam and never give up back-to-back home runs?
Wow.
So in their entire career, they never gave up a grand slam and they never gave up back-to-back home runs.
Satchel Paige?
No.
Robin Roberts.
That'd be a good guess. It's not the correct one.
Is he a starter?
Is what?
Is he a starting pitcher or relief pitcher?
Starting pitcher.
Okay.
Starting pitcher. Hall of Famer, played in 3 different decades. I'll give you
I
another
was
good
just going
hint.
with the
Won a
Phillies
World
thing, but I was,
Series
yeah.
in 3 different decades.
Wow, really?
At least I believe that's true. Pretty wait a minute.
John just makes stuff up.
Yes.
No, you got me. I'm terrible with trivia.
Give me 1 second here. Let me look around the room here.
Don, you may have his rookie card. I'm not sure if you would have many other cards of him. Although, maybe a 76.
Who was at the end of their career? I have no idea.
All right, I stumped you both. Jim Palmer.
Oh, just looking at his card. Nah, he didn't do it in 3 different decades. Really? Did he give up a grand slam? Or
Never gave up a grand slam and never gave up back-to-back home runs.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Especially in his era.
I saw it on I think it was a Facebook short or something like that. These 2 guys have a channel. Part of it they do trivia, and someone had guessed maybe tongue-in-cheek Nolan Ryan, and they responded that I guess Nolan Ryan has given up the most number of grand slams. Not none. I think it was 10 or something like that. I could have that off a little bit, but
just throwing heat all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't realize that about the.
I guess age, because I thought the records weren't very good, and that
yeah.
Yeah.
That way.
Well, and if you just go by Major League records, Major League Baseball records, he did have a short. He was a Hall of Famer, but had a short stint in the Major League, so maybe he didn't give up a grand slam. Yeah. So interesting. But getting back to setting goals, how important do you think personally? And again, everyone collects different in how they approach the hobby, but how important is it for you, or maybe in general, of setting goals, having lists of potential? Like you said, hey, make a note of someone mentions a card that you may have some interest in. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go out and buy it right away, but it may be on a potential future list of, hey, this may be a card that I want to buy. So it could be short-term goals, long-term goals. What's your take, Alex? Because I have a take as well, and Don, you may have as well on, setting goals or putting lists together of focus within the hobby.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we do, whether we're all aware of it or not, has a lot to do with our own personalities. Because I know lots of collectors that will flat out say, I have no direction at all. I have no focus whatsoever. But they don't say that. What am I trying to say? Like, they're not worried about that. Like, they're having a good time and like they're happy with their collecting, and whereas for me, that would make me nervous. But that says more about me than it does about them. So for me, like, I definitely need focus, because if I didn't have it, I would feel like I could easily go off the deep end, and just turn around one day and be like, wow, what did I just do? And I could just have a whole bunch of stuff and wonder how it happened. So for me, the focus really kind of helps me kind of keep my head around whatever I'm trying to do. And also, I have to admit that I really like it. Like, it's kind of fun to go through and say, okay, well, what do I want this to look like when I'm done? Like, I'm never going to be done with my collection. That's the thing about the way I collect, is that, the 53 Bowman set, that was a very clear goal, and there's 160 cards, and once I get number 160, I'm done. And that was really a satisfying feeling. But the way I collect now, I'll never be, there's no such thing as completing it, because it's just whatever I want to do. But I'm okay with that. And what I do enjoy, and John, you mentioned this a little earlier, is seeing the collection grow over time, and sort of stopping and looking at it and saying like, hey, this is really heading in a cool direction that I'm really happy with. There was a time that some people will remember, like, people would ask me like, do you have anything besides the 53 Bowman set? Like, and whereas now, like, I don't have a lot, but I definitely have more than just that set now. And it's been fun seeing it slowly build and become something that I'm happy with. So I guess seeing that my focus has sort of worked so far has been satisfying, and that keeps me going. And I think the focus, the way I do it, works for me. But I do think it's like every collector for themselves, like in terms of what makes sense to them.
I know when I started getting into vintage cars, I did have a goal, but it's such a huge ultimate goal that, you know, I'm probably never going to complete, and that's from 48 Bowman to 1980, getting all the Hall of Famers from the set. So I mean, that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
But that's something that, okay, it's a long-term marathon goal. But to get there, I found that if I didn't have smaller lists to focus on, I almost got like the yips when it came to, like, you know, golf or, you know, putting or something like that. I'd see a card and I'm like, well, do I want to go after that one? Well, there's another one that may be coming up. And again, I have a certain budget and, you know, have to stay within my lane and stuff. So I was like, well, do I get this one or do I get that one? And then I would freeze and both of them would go. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't get either of them. And so there were times where, because I didn't have a focus, I wasn't getting anything, and it wasn't for lack of interest in getting a particular card. I just didn't know where to start, where to go after, what card to go after. So by putting these, I have these, you know, 100 card lists of stuff. I took a look at, okay, here's some cards that I would really like to have in my collection. These are the ones that are more prominent for me personally. And so let me try to focus on them. That's not to say that if another card comes up at a card show, I bought a couple cards at the Strongsville show that weren't on any of my lists. Now, part of that was because I had it in my head that I had a certain amount of money and I was going to spend it all. So I had a few dollars left. Don, you probably remember the last day. I think I had like $25, and I'm like, I'm spending it. So I went around. I found a 51 Topps Eddie Matthews for $25.
Nice.
So, you know, really happy with that. That Eddie Matthews was not on my list. Okay, so that was, I don't want to say an impulse buy, but it was a Hall of Famer, so it went to my larger list. But I would just be, especially at like the National, I'd go from table to table, and if I didn't have a list, a short focus that I was working off of, I'd be lost. It would just be sensory overload, and where I was getting on eBay. You can get sensory overload on eBay. So having a focus and lists for me has tremendously helped my collecting. So
Yeah, I know on my end, like, you know, what I call a set is just Hall of Famers from that set. And I've got where I only want the players. Like my stand-ups, I don't have Joe Torre, even though he's a Hall of Famer, but he made it as a manager. And that's just my personal, the way I like to collect, because I didn't want to buy a ton of cards like how you collected that whole set. And it's cool how you know the history of all these guys. And I never looked at it that way, but I always felt like I don't want to spend money on these guys that I've never heard of, that I don't care about. And it's just my personal way of collecting. But I grabbed this card here. This was the last card I needed to finish the 50 Bowman Hall of Fame run. Right here. And that's Luke Appling. And I had the hardest time finding this card. I could find it, but it was trashed. Or if it was in good condition, it was very expensive. But I really had to teach myself to be patient. The right card will come along, and it finally did. And I'm thrilled with the what I got. But in the grand scheme of things, did I really want a Luke Appling card that much that I needed it to complete that set. I think that we're all like completists, if that's a word.
Yeah.
You know, going after that. But I put so much time and effort looking for this card that if you said, show me your top 100 cards, this isn't coming out.
I have to admit that, you know, that big goal that I have of all the Hall of Famers from all those sets, that now I did want to complete the 78 top set, because that had, Alex, just like for the 53 Bowman set for you, to me, the 78 top set had special meaning. That was the first year I collected cards. Even some of the lesser known Hall of Famers, I just love the cards and love the players and all that stuff. But I know there's going to come a point where I'm going to be a few cards short of completing the 1975 Topps Hall of Fame run. And there's going to be some players on there that may be lesser Hall of Famers or whatever. And I'm like
George Brett.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be like, do I want that card? I mean, yeah, it'll complete the run, but how excited am I going to be to add that particular player? So I can foresee myself at some point maybe not completing all the Hall of Famers of every year and getting to the point where I say, hey, you know what? I have the Hall of Famers that I want out of that set. And then maybe I go on to something else that I may want to get into. And maybe I'll never, of course, you know, you have the 52 Mantle, but beyond the ones I could actually afford, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not completing
in a way that it's your complete set.
Yeah.
For what your goal is. If your goal is to say, these are the cards I want from that particular year, you know, I don't like the 57 George Kell. I'm just throwing that out as an example.
Yeah.
It is a complete set for you, you know, that's why you got to look at it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I mean, a Luis Aparicio card doesn't get me excited. That's me. So, but that would be on the Hall of Fame run for a particular year. You know, I've seen some show up, and are they expensive? No. Oh, I could, you know, maybe pick one up in a mid-grade for $20 or something. Oh, hey, great, I got a Hall of Famer. Am I excited about it? I don't know. So I'm sure I'm going to come to that point where I'm saying, hey, I'm good with that set, and let's move on. Adapting, changing what your collection wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, for me, I love the idea of set building. I've obviously done it, and I'm not opposed to doing it again. But one of the reasons I haven't, I think, is because for me that 53 set was kind of an anomaly. Like, I really genuinely like every card in that set and enjoyed getting every one of them. But I don't know that I would feel that way about many other sets for the reasons that you both are saying. Like, it's hard to imagine a set that, like, from top to bottom has a card that I want every single time, you know. And I've thought about, like, I like Diamond Stars, you know. I'm trying to think of other sets. Like Gaudy is beautiful, although that would be tough. It's really tough with some cards in that set. But yeah, that's a great set. Yeah, for sure. But that's partially why I do what I do now, because I'm trying to avoid feeling like I have to buy a card that I don't want. You know, like I'm only getting stuff that I like, and avoiding stuff that I don't want to own.
And all of us have, again, maybe to some greater extent than others, a budget. You know, if we had unlimited funds, if we all won the lottery and we had so much disposable income that we didn't know what to do with, we'd probably go out and just maybe buy some. Maybe some of us wouldn't, but some of us may just be like, oh yeah, hey, I like that card, I'll buy it. I like that card, I'll buy it.
Yeah,
because it doesn't, you know, may not mean as much, but you have the means to do it. For us, if there's a particular card, we may have to save for months to get a particular card. And for your set, Alex, this is just my personal thought, but right now, the fact that you completed the 53 Bowman set, and that's the only set you've completed, correct? At least it graded.
Yeah,
that holds a special meaning. If you Did the same for a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth set. Now it still has some meaning, but maybe not as much because now it's one of 6 sets that you've completed. And in my mind, I would think that for me, it would sort of lose its prominence in my collection. That, oh, I did it once, I did it a second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, so on. Now you have all these sets. Now you're like, well, yeah, this one's still my favorite, but I like this one too.
Right.
I don't know, to me, it would lose its importance and the time and dedication it took for you to complete that set.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And again, like I want to enjoy every single card, and if I'm not like that motivated to do it, I don't want to find myself in that situation where I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't really want this card, but because I have to build the set, I have to get it. But that, like, set building is a whole different beast, and the way I did it, I would not recommend to other people nowadays because I built it slabbed, and that's like crazy nowadays. I think there's something fun about just building like a raw set. We have plenty of set builders in our community that I think do it the right way.
Well, you look at guys like Geez Mikey, he builds them, gets rid of it, and then builds it again.
Does it again, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's again that thrill of completion. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did it once, okay, and you may move on to something else, or you may sell it to fund something else within your hobby, and you go, man, I really like that set, and let me try to do it. Hey, if I did it once, let me see if I can do it again. And then it's that sense of, yay, I completed it for a second time. It's that little. The hobby is something that all of us enjoy, and it's those little dopamine rushes that we get from time to time. Just like, I don't know if you golf, but for golfers, I know on occasion when I get out, you hit a bad shot, and then you hit that one good shot, and you go, oh. That's what it's about, and it gets you out on the golf course the next time because I know I can hit that good shot, and you get that thrill of making a 20-foot putt or hitting a nice drive down the middle. Of course, the rest of the shots could be terrible, but it gives you that enjoyment that keeps you want to, in this case, be a part of the hobby and to grow your collection.
Absolutely, yeah, totally agree.
I'm trying to think if there's any. I jotted down some notes. I think we touched upon most of the things. I mean, obviously, I think the general rule out there is to be happy, enjoy what you collect. You don't have to collect like everyone else. Collect what you enjoy. I know people have said that hey, just collect what you like and enjoy it, but it's true. Like the 3 of us all love this hobby, and we collect in slightly different ways. Some maybe commonalities, and we enjoy our collections and enjoy. And the other thing is by collecting what we enjoy, we can appreciate and be happy for others who pick up, maybe, as you mentioned earlier, a common card that has a special meaning to them. I may not be interested in that card at all. I wouldn't want that card in my collection. But you can be happy for that other collector because there are some cards in your collection that you were excited about that someone else may not be excited about. And so we can share as a community. One of the things I like about the National and the get together and during the show is, I love to go up to people and say, hey, what'd you pick up? What'd you get? And to see the smile on their faces, like, oh, I found this card, or look what I picked up here, or look what I found. And I'm so happy for them, whether it's an ungraded common card that they need for their set or some, graded vintage card, whatever the case may be. I love having other people show off what they added to their collection because I can see the excitement for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I was just thinking, all 3 of us, although I still feel like I'm new in this community, all 3 of us have been around for a while now. And I think between the 3 of us, we've probably all seen a lot of cards. And, so seeing a card is not anything new. I mean, I'll still drool if somebody like shows me a Ty Cobb or, a Christy Mathewson, but I've seen a lot of cards, and so it's not so much to me. It's not so much about the card anymore as it is about hearing what drew that person to that card and how that card fits into their collection. And it doesn't even matter if it's, a huge price, high price card, or if it's a common card. It doesn't really matter to me. It's more about like, how does that collector approach their hobby, and like what gets them going and what makes them tick. That's to me what's most interesting, more so than which card it is.
Yeah, which it's the storytellers, which is what you do, Alex, and Drew and many other guys here. It's even going to a show, you hate to say it, but it's like, yeah, I've seen that Babe Ruth. I've seen the 52 mantle tops how many times now? Like, it isn't like, oh my God, there it is,
Right.
but like when Eric, those back pages, traded all those cards for his 52 mantle.
Yeah.
And just the story behind that. And I totally agree with you. And I gravitate to those kind of channels. I think we all do. And I kind of think your show on Sunday nights is a collection of those type of people, very like-minded for the most part, as far as, it's just, we're here to be entertained. And that's what the story does to us. It's not necessarily seeing the card that you've seen 9,000 times.
Right.
Well, yeah, as sort of a wrap up, you mentioned Don Alex's live stream that you do. I will have a link to Alex's channel in the description of this video here. Definitely go check his channel out. And now you, with some exceptions, it's weekly. Is it Sunday at 8 Eastern?
Yeah, Sunday night at 8.
Okay.
Yeah, usually every Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Occasionally, you'll put a post out if something comes up and you're not having the live stream. But definitely go check out Alex's channel and live stream on most Sundays at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And would love to know, for those of you who have followed now for an hour, would love to know in the comments what you think about some of these topics. Maybe there's some other aspects of the hobby, both maybe some warnings to keep mindful of, or some joys about the hobby that we didn't touch upon. Would love to know in the comments. And if that's all we have, guys, we really appreciate you watching. And until next time, keep collecting.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Alex. I really appreciate it.